This episode of Walt Disney World Today is being sponsored by Owner's Locker, which is a great service for storing all of your junk. Everyone's got junk. We all bring it down to Disney World with us. Sometimes it's stuff we buy. Sometimes it's the people that we bring on our trip. But nonetheless, it's junk. And unlike the people you bring on your trip, you can leave the other junk that you buy in Walt Disney World in Orlando. So why not use Owner's Locker? They'll deliver it right to your place, and then you can get it on your next trip so you don't have to keep bringing that junk back and forth. Give them a try. Go visit them at www.ownerslocker.com.
This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Monday, April 28th, 2008, and this is episode 402 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hochberg from StudioCentral.com. On the show today, we have Len Testa, co-author of the Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. Hi, Len.
Matt, it is so good to be here with you today.
Len, would you be up for a camping trip?
Fourth grade camping trip?
Yes, my favorite kind.
Not.
I'll bring the chocolate.
Oh, so I have a classic story. When we're done with the introductions, I'll tell it to you.
Okay.
Fourth grade camping trip story, classic, and it's Disney related.
Ooh, excellent. Also on the show today is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. And Mike, I know you're just going to say hi just so we can hear Len's story quicker, right?
Hi.
Very good. And also on the show today we have Mike Scopa of allears.net. Welcome, Mike.
We'd sooner die. Keep out the Yankees.
Hall of Presidents.
Boston Red Sox, right?
Red Sox.
Actually, it's the Hall of the Red Sox.
And broadcasting alongside me here in Studio Central headquarters is Annette Owens of MEI and Mousefan Travel. Welcome, Annette.
Hi, great to be here.
You can make eye contact with me since we're in the same room.
Ooh.
So yeah, Len, quick story.
So I take Hannah, my daughter, on a fourth grade camping trip to the beach Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this week. So Tuesday night, we're all hanging around the campfire. And one of the dads knows that I write a Disney guidebook, and his son Matt is there, and says, I've read your book. I love it. Love the touring plans. We used it on a trip in February. It was great. In fact, my son is such a huge fan. He brought a Disney trivia book with him.
Oh no!
On the trip.
God.
I'm like,
oh, no.
I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. It's volume 2 of the trivia book. I'm like, Lou Mongello's book, really? And he goes, yeah. You know him? I was like, yeah, Lou and I are tight. We're friends. I can't believe you brought the book. So I
autographed it as him.
No, he runs and gets the book because he has to show me that it brings Mongello's book there. And he runs back and he goes, you know Lou, right? I'm like, yeah, Lou and I are good. His wife is Deanna, son's Nicholas, and everything. Really, really good. He's like, and looks on the back. He's like, why isn't your name listed on the back with the quotes? I'm like, well, but see Mike Scopa right there. I work with Mike. We do a podcast. And see Jim Hill, Jim and I are tight. And I go out and get my cell phone. I'm like, see, here's Lou's phone number on the cell phone. And here's Jim's and here's Mike. He goes, yeah. Okay, I guess you know him. I'm like, seriously, you're 9. What do you think? So the next day I tipped over his canoe in the lake. And
nice.
Anyway, no, just kidding.
So the topic for today's show was actually suggested by Keith from Elgin, wrote into us and said, Dear Matt, Mike, and Len, I've been listening for a long time and even emailed a couple of times. I have a possible idea for a show called The Weekend Trip. From time to time, there are events at the world like the upcoming, or just past, Precious Moment Weekend in June, Star Wars Weekends at the Studios, or the ABC Super Soap Weekend, etc. As we all know, Disney can be very expensive, and actually taking a weekend trip just to go down there for the weekend is extremely indulgent, but there must be some tips you guys would have for minimizing the cost. And we've actually, I think all of us really have been proponents of the weekend trip. We often take weekend trips. And so I thought we would talk about today about helping Keith out in terms of tips for planning trips, for the weekend. And what we mean by weekend is typically, you're leaving either late Wednesday night or even Thursday night, maybe, and you're just so really all you're missing is that Friday at work, at the very least. So when you're doing this, I guess I'll start things off here. When I used to do my weekend trips when I lived up north, a lot of these weekend trips would be born out of good sales, like on Southwest when you get like a good ding for the weekend or something, a couple of weeks coming ahead.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, Newell. Len, are you the same way?
And, I can't tell you, though, how many times I've actually left work at 5 o'clock and driven all night to Walt Disney World. Well, not all night, but, till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And got a couple hours sleep in the hotel and hit the parks all day Saturday and most of the day Sunday, only to drive back.
See, that's interesting. I never even thought about that because you and Annette, you obviously living in North Carolina, you're obviously...
we had that all the time together.
We get together and drive all night to Florida.
I drive all night. It's exactly.
Well, then what are you doing? You follow each other and...
Another research trip. No, Annette and I've actually never had a vacation together.
Never won. So Annette, but you drive also? You do the driving rather than flying?
It depends on the Southwest ding, but
Yeah,
no,
you're
we
in
tend to
Raleigh.
get in the car. We tend to get in the car around 11 o'clock and head down because then you still get to work that day. You get in the car, you head down, and if you live in North Carolina, you're here for breakfast.
So here's the thing: if you leave work around 3 o'clock, that's pretty much a full day's work. You might have to take an hour or two of vacation time, or if you show up early, you might be able to get away with calling it a full day. But checking Southwest right now out of Raleigh, it's $350, $360 round trip, so it's cheaper to drive. So if you work at 3 o'clock, you pack your bags the night before, leave work at 3 o'clock. You're there at midnight, 1 o'clock. Yeah, you're checking into a hotel kind of late, and yeah, you're paying for the extra night, but you're getting 5 or 6 hours of extra sleep, which is going to make all the difference in the world. You hit it hard all day Saturday, maybe heading back to the hotel for a nap or two. Hit the park again, till noon, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Drive, you're home around midnight, but so what?
So here's the thing, Len, you and Annette, you can drive down there. Us, well, I'm not in the north anymore, but when I was in the north and Scopa and Newell, we would watch, airfare sales, right? Is that how you would plan those kinds of weekends, Scopa?
Yeah, you just keep checking on Southwest, and sometimes the last minute you say, there's a really good deal for, I don't know, $79 round trip or whatever, $114 round trip, and it's like, well, it's probably worth it. The thing that is a concern, though, if it happens to be during a busy time of year, you may not be able to get a room in the resort of your choice, so you may end up paying through the nose for your room, even though you're saving on the airfare. But for the most part, yeah, it's the Southwest ding is really a carrot that lures you to take one of these trips. Yep.
The other thing is what I like to do. Last minute trips are great, especially when there's a good sale, for instance. But what I also like about is you can plan these out. And for me, I like going down, maybe 2, 3, 4 times a year on quick weekend trips rather than just one long trip for the year, because it gives me more. You get to go down during different times of the year, so you can experience different events like Halloween or Flower and Garden or Star Wars weekends, like Keith had mentioned in his email. And it allows you to experience a lot of different things on different weeks. So that can play into, you get to see more of it rather than just taking that annual trip for 1 week where you spill it all out in one time and then you're not going back for another year or so.
Yeah, that would be one of the big advantages. So you're paying a little bit more in terms of airfare. You got to also be flexible on your hotel and on your meals.
Right, if you're doing last minute.
Yeah, you pretty much have to.
Yeah.
Again, you can find deals. Remember my Christmas trip, which you can't get more crowded than Christmas. My Christmas 2006 trip was literally booked within 3 hours on December 27th.
Not exactly something we'd necessarily recommend, but
it's doable. But I had set an artificially low goal of not more than $100 a night for the hotel room.
Right.
Had I wanted to pay $150, there were other things available. So.
Now, beyond just going to doing airfare and getting down there. Once you're down there, there are some things you can take advantage of. Namely, one of the things that comes to mind is when you're down there, you're obviously not down there enough to do everything. You're certainly not even be able to do all 4 parks. How do you guys handle the park touring if you're only down there for a weekend? Let's assume you're coming down there on a Thursday at some point, leaving on a Sunday.
Well, the thing is, Matt, that if you're going to go down for the weekend, you have to keep in mind. Just like Len sets a threshold for the room, the cost of the room, you have to set a threshold as to what you're going to do for park touring. And in many cases, there may be something going on that weekend that helps to lure you down there. Like there could be a pass holder's preview that might lure someone down there, or there may be some kind of special occasion that's going down there. So I think that you have to keep that in mind, that when you're going down there, if you're only going for 2 or 3 days, you're not going to be able to do everything you would do if you were staying for a week or so. So, you have to limit yourself. But again, in our case, it's a little bit different because we go down so often. We know that if we don't get to do this, we don't get to ride Everest, we don't get to do this, we most likely we'll be able to do that in the next trip or the next trip, which is probably only a couple of months away, if that far.
Yeah, that goes back to what I was saying before, Mike. When I do the weekend trips, I do them with the intention that I'll be coming back again during the year. So if I go, one trip and I do, okay, I get down on Thursday's a wash. So it's really Friday and Saturday I'm dealing with because Sunday is kind of iffy depending on when I'm going back. That gives you, okay, I'll say Friday I'll spend Friday in the studio, Saturday I'll do Epcot. I might try to squeeze in, maybe 3 parks in over the weekend. But really I find that being able to focus on, 2 parks, maybe 3, lets you get more. You're able to do a lot more then, and then you come back with that in the back of your mind. That's an advantage, I think, of the weekend trips. And that when you go down there I mean, a lot now. Obviously, you're not necessarily going down there with your kids as much. But when you come down here, do you try to work it all in, or how do you handle the parks?
We give the kids a list and say, give us your top 3. So we try to make sure they get their top 3 rides. So obviously, we're going to studios. They're teenagers. We're going to studios. And then we take and add in some stuff for us. But for the most part, we're trying to make sure that if they're with us for a weekend, it's about them. So then when we come back another weekend without the kids, it's about us. So there's our reason for doing weekend trips is we bring the family some, but then Mark and I can get away and do a quick weekend, getaway where we can enjoy the parks and enjoy some like Epcot where the kids are just not as drawn to.
Now, Annette, do you do last-minute trips, or do you plan these out? Just you're going to go for a long weekend on one of these weekends.
This trip was planned in 3 weeks, 3 weeks prior. So sometimes they're short trips.
Okay, makes sense. What else do you guys put into weekend trips? What are some tips that you would offer to our listeners in terms of planning weekend trips?
I think half the fun is the spontaneity and the planning the trip in half an hour. So you really do have to be flexible on the hotels. If you can get something on Disney property, here's the one thing I have noticed. So, and this was before I was working for the Unofficial Guide. I had gone down enough and stayed at enough Disney hotels, and I think they had started tracking, how many times we had been. There were many times where I tried to check into a hotel, like for example, Saturday, if I was staying at the hotel Saturday night, where I was checking in at 3 o'clock in the morning, mm-hmm. and they gave me the room at 3 o'clock in the morning, even though I wasn't supposed to check in for another 12 hours. So you can always try that, at the hotel you're at. And they didn't charge me for the room either. Even if they did, it's not that big a deal.
Interesting.
But I mean, you can't get dining reservations, or if you can, maybe it's someplace that you haven't eaten before, because it's not hugely popular. So you can say, look, I want to eat in 2 hours. What do you have? And sit down in the Magic Kingdom. And maybe they have something, maybe they don't. But that's always an opportunity. I mean, the big thing is you got to be flexible.
Exactly.
Scopa?
Well, to pick up with what Len said, not only, I mean, if you go down there with the realization that you're probably not going to be able to, get a 12 o'clock seating or 6 o'clock seating at Le Cellier, you need to look at that as being, well, okay, so if I do quick service, that gives me more time to do things in the park. So it's a give and take kind of a thing. It's a balance that you're looking for. It's what's more important, spending time in the parks doing stuff or eating at your favorite restaurant. It's a last minute trip, so just like with the room, you just have to hope that you can get whatever you can for dining options.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even that. I'd take it a step further, Mike. When I'm down there for such a short trip, I don't want to be eating up my park time by sitting in a restaurant. And usually when I'm going down for weekends, I'm going down on weekends that I know are going to be low on crowds, because I've looked at the crowd calendar ahead of time to plan it. And so, and during those slower times, the park hours are open less. So, again, I'd rather eat at a counter service and get more time in the parks rather than spending, an hour or two of the day, of maybe only an 8-hour day or, 10 hours if the park is open in a restaurant.
Now, one thing we haven't talked about is that, this going down for the last minute and going down for a weekend here and there probably does not appeal to those people who either don't have annual passes or don't have extra days left on their Magic Your Way tickets.
Good point.
That's a consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with an annual pass, this is the great thing about annual passes. We mentioned this quite a bit, is that when you have an annual pass, it compels you to take these little quick trips because you can. There's no more added ticket cost. In fact, you're getting more value out of your annual pass by coming down for a quick trip. So when you see a ding, you may say to yourself, well, we only have planned coming down 3 times, but hey, we can make this work.
Can you use frequent flyer miles on last-minute trips like that, like 24 hours in advance?
I know you can use them on like AirTran and Southwest. I think you have to pay a different fee. There's a higher fee than normally you would pay. It's like $10 or $15 more. I want to say I think all the airlines have some sort of a penalty for using it so quick, but you can.
Cool, because that's another option too. If the money's just exorbitant.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Last minute.
Great. Well, that's it for us today. And you know what? On your next trip that you take down at the last minute, why not take advantage of it by having all your stuff ready to go in your owner's locker? It can be waiting for you in Orlando because you had put all that stuff in from your last trip. Thus, less stuff to pack, and you can follow Annette and Len from North Carolina down to Florida with no problem. Just give them a try by going to www.ownerslocker.com. And that's it for us today. If you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the Walt Disney World Today website at wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Newell, Mike Scopa, and Annette Owens, I'm Matt Hotchberg. We'll see you on the next show.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.